family, fam, yo, boom, family. Aboom family, fam, yo, aboom family. Aboom family, fam, aboom family. I'm a family, I'm a yo, aboom family, fam, family. Aboom family, yo, aboom family. Never family, the remedy, I'm a yo, aboom, yo, ha. Ka abarunam na oba mamadio ha akaram is abumugoya abumra ukweze ra. Welcome everyone. Welcome to all my ancestors. Welcome to everyone my lineage. My name is Chimoge. And also call me Moge, which is the name of this network. It's a rehearsal. Let me find my notes and then we can begin. Aboom family, fam, yo, aboom family, the remedy. I am the family, remedy, fam, yo, aboom family, fam, aboom family. Aboom family, fam, yo, aboom family. Aboom family, the remedy, I'm a yo, aboom family, fam, fam. Aboom paw, pe. Aboom paw, pe. Abum parche amadio ha paramacha. Abum amadio ham abum amadio ha amadio ha kareze omeria na amadio ha buneze kind of nabe abuneze nabe bu na eze nabe bu na eze nabe bu amadio ha. Aboom family. Aboom family, fam, yo. Aboom family. I am family, the remedy. I'm just adding some stuff to this. Aboom family, fam, yo. Aboom family, the remedy. Aboom family, fam, yo. Aboom family. I do moo, famadio. I do moo, mua do, bua madio, kwana. Okay. The bonus piece of information. Then the hand of God. The hand of God. What is it? Let me just define Pan-Africanism. Leave it vague. Let's spell the C. Aboom family, madio. Aboom family. Aboom alamadioha, monech, alamadioha. Aboom muta, abo, karakaya. Aboom family, madio. Aboom family, the remedy. I am family, the remedy, amadio, amamadioha. Amadio Haka, Amadio Hasha, Obu Gweze, Amadio Kareze, Igwe Kareze, Abum Ya, Abum Igwe Mone Guigwe, Nuwa, Nabibu Igwe Mone Bia, Uwa, Igwe Bu, Nabe Abu Amadio Ha. Nabe, bobo, nabe, onyara, lundu, nele, abumamadioha, anime family, femadio, anime family, abu family, femadio, abu family, the remedy, amadio, I am the remedy, bigo, family, fall, Big O family, paw, Aboom family, femadio Aboom family, remadio Aboom family, the remedy. Aboom amadio Alright, coming with some questions. Excuse me. Go. A boom family, family, fam, man, yo. A boom family, family, ha. A boom family, family, fam, man, yo. A boom amadio, ha. Amadio, ha. Igwe, Otunu, ha. A boom amadio, ha. Boom, Igwe, Naka. He chooses to cut every time. Is it cause it's twice? Is it cause twice? Igwe does it every time. I do it every time I am a Mario. Agua here Igwe Biao, Abo Mario. Agua Bu Kalakanu, Agua Mario. You have the Agua, then you have Agua Mario. Agua Biao Inke, Amadio. All Coco Mary Kanga. Well, Abuma Madio. Abuma Kika, Anemeki Kenemike, Abuma Madioha, Abuma Madioha, Unudumbu Amadioha, Unudumbu Amadioha. I knew Amadioha. What's another question? All right. Finished it. Let's just go rehearsal. Basically, for rehearsal, I'm gonna read through the script, or notes, whatever you want to call it, for the video I'm rehearsing for twice. That's it. Let's go. So here it is. So the title of this video is gonna be, it's very similar to the title of this live stream. I wanted it to be exact, but I missed some words. Whatever. Well, I mean, even this title, I haven't proofread it yet to see if it'll fit within the YouTube title space. I mean, if it doesn't, I'll just keep this title in the write up, and then that title will be shorter. I think I'm going to start doing that because it's easier for me anyway. Also, to get you to see my intent more. I think I'll do that, and then the comments, if the title ends up being different, I'll put that. Yeah, anyway, so the title is, I want to talk about Dr. Umar Johnson's personal and public failure that happened in 2025. I want to talk about Dr. Umar Johnson's personal and public failure that happened in 2025. I don't want to edit that. That kind of sounds funny. I want to talk about Dr. Umar Johnson's personal and public failure that happened. Maybe it's English. Anyway, we'll keep it like that. So, point one. Dr. Umar got exposed as a deadbeat dad. Dr. Umar got exposed as a deadbeat dad. Obviously, this was rumored for a while. It was known, and even he admitted before that he was not, at least of his oldest daughter, because what he'd said previously is that he had two children, two daughters. He said that his oldest daughter, he hadn't been in her life for most of her life. And then the younger one, I think he said multiple things, but I don't remember if he said he'd been in her life or it was like a co-parenting situation, but he said he wasn't in a good place with either their mother, that affected things. Now that by itself does not necessarily mean someone was a deadbeat dad, because it's possible that they were prevented from parenting when they wanted to and tried, and that was his side of the story. But his daughter came out last year and spoke and said that, Umar had not been in her life, and that, basically could have been. And especially since she'd been an adult, because at the time she was like 22, 23. I mean, it's only been a year now. So if someone's not a deadbeat dad, once the child is an adult, it seems more logical that they would just go quickly and make the connection, and then clear things up. And then Umar responded and insulted her like a deadbeat dad would. So, I mean, it's pretty clear he's a deadbeat dad. So there was just confirmation of what many suspected. Uh, yeah, I'll just add. Here we go. Did I think he was a deadbeat dad? I'll say borderline no, because I wasn't sure. Because obviously we see those cases a lot. And to be clear, as I've said in the past, because of my stupid family situation, I think that the definition of deadbeat dad needs to be expanded. Just because you were near the child doesn't mean you parented. You actually have to parent. And this goes without saying, you have to succeed in parenting to not be a deadbeat dad. Because if, say you Lord, what's an example I could use? Uh, what's an example I could use? Say, well, actually, let me revise that a bit. I think, let me put it like this: you have to at least try to parent consistently to not be a deadbeat dad. And if you try, you will at least succeed up to a basic point. Okay. Now, if you fail spectacularly beyond the basic point, that means you're the lowest level of father. And that's another issue. But in society today, we're not even there. We just have a bunch of deadbeat dads. These are people who didn't even attempt to parent. Um, and maybe the example I can use is what it means to be near a child and not parent. So, for example, if all you do is yell at your child because you feel annoyed at something they're doing, right? And it's not for the benefit of the child, just because you feel annoyed. One thing I've seen is a lot of men who have their first child old, say maybe you're 50, at your first child, and the child is running around the house because they're a child, they need to move, and you complain and yell because you're tired. That's not parenting. You're just being a child yourself. So things like that are not parenting. Just because you sprayed a lot of energy at your child doesn't mean you're a parent. Anyway, so the whole point I'm making is, we see a lot of deadbeat dads. The classic one people know wasn't there, and then the one that goes under the radar who's there and just took up space and did nothing. So because of that, I obviously didn't think it was impossible that Umar was a deadbeat dad, but just because really of his line of work and his public talking points, I thought most likely he was not a deadbeat dad. Just because it's weird for a deadbeat dad to say, I want to open a school for children, make that your life's mission, and constantly fly all over the place talking about how you want to help children. That's just weird. But as I'm going to talk about, it looks like Umar has a habit of projecting in a way that's really not normal. So anyway, got exposed to deadbeat dad. That's a personal failure. Um, and I want to add that saga included a lot of very depressing things. His daughter ended up in a tough situation. He didn't help her. It looks like, just um, that family just has a lot of calamity there. And Umar has not done enough to make things better, because someone of his stature, at least supposed stature, should clean that up more. So yeah, that is a disgrace. Anyway, that's a failure of personhood. So second thing I want to bring up is how Dr. Umar's school almost got shut down. School almost got shut down. To my knowledge, it's still I mean, saying it's open is a little weird because they're like classes haven't started yet, but it almost got closed, as in prevented from operating in any form. And this was because of, I think it was like late permits, something like that, and then also failure to pay certain things. So, again, that's a failure just because of how long. I mean, first of all, I just want to say most of the criticism I've heard of his school has been in shit. Just because people don't give proper context. For example, most people have not seen a school open, and most of the schools that are open today, especially the US, have been open for decades, right? Maybe even longer. So, because of that, you can't look at someone who was attempting to start a school maybe in 2010, and then in 2015, you're saying it's a failure because you don't, there's no context for that, you know. So if you didn't come out and criticize Umar by giving a bunch of data about the average length of time it takes to open up a school, and then adjust for recency and also the fact that he's a black person attempting to do something in a majority white society, you're really just running your mouth. And if you knew other things, you really just, I mean, you're really a disgrace. You know, just because you know someone's a criminal and you say they're a criminal doesn't mean you've done well. You actually have to come out with proof. And if you don't have much proof, don't speak too much. So people just wasted time. And the problem with that is when people like me see that someone's critics are generally not solid, you tend to tune them out. So then you end up giving more credence to the criminal than is necessary. So that's disgusting. But my thing is, opening a school is a big undertaking, right? So the shutdown or near shutdown, which he talked about himself, is a failure. Even if this school goes on to open somehow, right? That itself is a failure. That's concerning because it speaks to a lack of organization and planning. Because to get to the point where a school is open, at least in some legal form, you have to put a lot of time and energy into it. There has to be a lot of forethought. So to do all that and then get into a position where it's getting shut down, that speaks to a lack of foresight, in my language, a lack of insight. Because if it was that difficult for you to get it over the line, you should have done something simpler, right? And I'll just leave it at that. So, yeah, that's a failure. That's just recklessness. This man makes my head hurt. Anyway, then his critics make my head hurt. It's just like a bunch of criminals running their mouths in front of you. You just need to remove them. Anyway, people waste my time. People don't understand that there's no such thing as the internet, really. We exist. We're using technology to project our ideas out into the world. So if you just spray your ideas out into the world, that takes up time and space. It's like you're putting a sign in front of someone's face, and if there's a bunch of mud on the sign, you've wasted their time. Anyway, just people are very stupid. Anyway, all right. So point 3. The note here again. My notes for this one. This is the first of 2 videos. Are very rudimentary. I just put personal bank X. Basically, in addition to the school shutdown, Dr. Umar himself was in a situation where, according to him, he wasn't able to access any funds in his bank. So basically, he was broke. Again, being broke does not necessarily make you a bad person. Okay, the world is messed up. I've talked about this before. The idea that money is the only means of exchange is crazy. So the fact that everyone is dependent on that means there's a big systemic flaw and quite frankly, a lot of mental unwellness. So that's point 1. Point 2, there's just a lot of structural barriers to people getting money. So, if you don't have it, that doesn't mean you're bad. It just means you got God. That's it. But Umar's case is different because that's not a normal person. First of all, the older you are, the less grace you should get in not having money. So Umar's over the age of 50. I really think that if someone under the age of 30 doesn't have money, you really shouldn't look at it. And then between the age of 30 and 40, um, it's kind of a venial sin. As long as you're working, you're doing something. Again, any adult should be attempting to work and do something. And to be clear, if you're fighting off illness or something like that, that's doing something. But if someone's above the age of 50, that's a really serious problem. And I'm saying they at least don't have enough money to just, what do I want to say? Just, obviously, you have to adjust for certain things. Like, for example, if someone's supporting other people, but implicitly that person is bringing stuff in. And again, this is in the context of a system and really system of cultural practices that make no sense. But within that, someone over the age of 50 should be able to navigate well enough that they don't register as someone who's just broke, right? So Umar's over the age of 50, but then the even bigger factor that is this man has been famous since 2010. That was 2025. You've been famous for like 15 years. You're over the age of 50. You're constantly giving speaking engagements. And then on top of that, you've obtained a piece of paper from academia that, would make employers at least go, okay, he's a person. Again, that whole system doesn't make sense. And then on top of that, he's over the age of 50. When you put all these factors together, because really when people judge economics, they're lazy. You can't just look at one factor someone has and go, okay, this person should make money. It's like food, cooking, right? You can't say that because someone put tomatoes in water, they cooked. But if there are tomatoes and I'm just using these examples for, just to make the metaphor click. If there's tomatoes there's taro, you put in beef, you put in chicken, you put in green beans, you put in Brussels sprouts, a bunch of people help, you put in other seasoning, you mix it together, you crushed everything. That food should be tasty and healthy. So if you do all that, and at the end, the food, makes people evacuate, makes people evacuate their bowels. That's a big failure. It shouldn't be that bad. So Umar is really like that second piece of food I'm talking about. Somehow he has all those factors in there that should make him succeed. They should all come together and congeal in such a way that this guy really he should be rich. There are different ways to be rich, but he should be rich. And then he's coming out here talking about, I can't access my bank statement. Now, I'd want someone to investigate and see exactly what was going on. Was he lying about how broke he was or what? But, that's unacceptable. And I want to be clear, no one is invincible, right? There's no famous person who 100% is immune to being broke or anything like that. But if something crazy happens, you have to go into detail and tell the public. Because at that point, you have a responsibility to the public, especially because people have messed you up. He didn't do that. He just didn't say too much. So that's unacceptable. Anyway. Sorry, this stuff makes me mad. Just a waste of people's time to just be in front of the people and get this messy. Anyway, especially at that size. Anyway, point 4, I'll just say romantic scandals with black women and then vile and self-telling on insults. This one, it's really hard to verbalize just because a lot of it was vile gutter stuff, but I'll just say it like this. Let me think, Lord have mercy. I'm sorry, this one is disgusting. Umar is a vile individual, just putting stuff out. But anyway, I'm just gonna go. There were a couple black women who came out and accused Umar of misconduct in a romantic area. I'll say that. The misconduct seemed to be of the nature of how would I even describe that? It wasn't the highest level of misconduct in that area, but it was it seemed to be stuff like it wasn't one thing. They were just saying it was a bad person. He didn't treat them right in their relationship, or did something like that. Maybe someone accused him of harassment. I have to look back in, but there was just a lot of mud in there, and that's because of Umar. But the one I want to highlight is a woman who said that they had an intimate interaction, and then Umar did this vile self-telling insult thing, and I can't really repeat what he said. But what he said, he confirmed that they had an intimate interaction, and then he insulted her and said that she was not appealing, or put it like that. But then he confirmed in graphic detail that they had an intimate interaction. Now, this is strange because if you don't find someone appealing, why would you have that intimate interaction with them? And then on top of that, why would you then insult them without even acknowledging the contradiction? I mean, can I even give an analogy to make this more explicit? What time is it again? I want to get some food now. Sorry, I'm just checking the time. Okay, it's 8:11. I'll just go. Basically, I can't even say it. Umar insulted this woman using a phrase that began with a T. That implied that an interaction took place. He also said she was not physically appealing, but then seemed to brag about going and having the romantic interaction and confirmed it happened. Again, this speaks to someone whose mind is not there if they're being genuine. I wonder if he was speaking in code or something, because if not, it doesn't make any sense. How can you say someone is physically unappealing and then say, I'm good because I had a romantic interaction with them? It doesn't make sense. So that whole thing really polluted the airwaves, and then it just begs the question, where is mind at? And then also, what's going on with people who supported him in detail. Anyway, let's clear the air out. That's disgusting. It's really a pollutant. Anyway, the fifth one is kind of similar. My lips are chapped, folks. The thing that confounds me about this Umar situation is he's giving people schoolyard insults that wouldn't fly in the schoolyard. You see, I'm not that old. I'm 28. But when I was in middle school, when I was in high school, because there wasn't really a schoolyard at my high school, but people were doing schoolyard nonsense, and a lot of crude individuals. The kind of stuff Umar said would have gotten him joned on, and that's very basic information. So for him to just put that out, I don't know what's going on. So I don't know what was going on in Philly when Umar was 15. Was this insult and flow? I don't know. Is the Joan game weak out there? I don't know. Anyway. Lord have mercy. Can't even pray. That's disgusting. Anyway, I'm just gonna go. Point 5. White Woman Hypocrisy Joe Budden podcast. Again, this one's very classic. I'm just gonna keep it short, and then try and do the second read through after I go through my own points. Mind you, this is just the summary of what happened. What I'm calling personal failure. again, one of Umar's biggest, if not his biggest talking point is that black men should not have romantic relations with white women. Um, and I'm not going to go into that whole thing. All I'm going to say is this: because of the nature of racism, it is very difficult for black people to have romantic relationships with white people. There are exceptions, but it's very difficult. And point two, I would I'm just gonna say this. Most white skinned people are not actually white. There are a lot of mixed people who go under the radar. So that is a more complicated situation. But if you're talking about people who are actually white, that's difficult. I can't say every single situation should not happen, but that is difficult. I'll just leave it at that. Um, but what I want to focus on here is Umar's hypocrisy. So he made that his calling card. Then he got on the Joe Budden podcast and said that when he was in college, he had a crush on a white girl, his words, and he took her to the Million Man March. Um, again, why is anyway? That's what happened. So that obviously seems to indicate that he has relationships with white women. So you know, um, yeah, you could check out that clip for yourself. Anyway, um, uh, okay. Let me just go into my 4 points. What do I think of all this? One, it shows his crime. What do I mean by that? It just shows he's a criminal, and it's just like he told on himself. And again, there's two types of crime. There's crime that's criminalized by the government, and crime that's criminalized by nature and morality. There's overlap. Obviously, ideally, everything that the government says is a crime should actually be a crime, and they shouldn't leave alone, at the very least, major crimes. That's not the situation we're in. So really, the law itself is a crime right now. It's ironic, but when I say crime, I'm just talking. Really, here I'm talking. Well, I guess he got accused of harassment at least. I think I have to go back and look. This is even 5 points or 4 points. Am I missing my count? One, two, three, four. No, it's five. It's like, hold on. I guess do 4 and 5 seem like one to me? Oh, I'm just in pain. This is disgusting. Anyway, whatever. The point is, this guy's a criminal, like a natural criminal, and maybe you want to pass the government law in ways that are relevant. Anyway, so there's that. My second thing is that it makes me question all his interviews. All this nonsense makes me question all his interviews. One, uh, who supported him enough to get all those interviews and why? And again, it begs the question: why were other people not boosted? It's kind of a waste to just spray that man everywhere. And then two, are the questions he receives in interviews, are they hard enough? I guess particularly about him personally and his business dealings. Um, yeah, because just because of how against the grain most of what Umar says is, I didn't think he was getting a lot of grace from people. But given all this refuse that's come up, it looks like he has. Anyway, um, point three: must finally resolve school. What does that mean? I just think people just have to go in and actually investigate and find evidence of what's going on with the school. Okay, people shouldn't just be behind a laptop, um, running their mouth. Obviously, not everyone can investigate, but people should contribute much more relevant and intelligent questions. And we just shouldn't have people going at him for their own pleasure or for a personal vendetta. People just have to go and research that thing because that's just kind of a waste of time. And then we have to actually talk about what a proper school opening timeline would look at. And more than that, whether or not we should even be opening schools. So my thing is that basically Umar's whole school project to me has always been something that at best would have been some sort of symbol, especially because he was thinking of creating an all boys school. Again, that's just a big fist fight. There's nothing's good about that. Just a bunch of um, let me be respectful. Obviously, he's thinking of children being in there, but again, children. I'll just say that a child who's a man is still a man. So if you just put a bunch of men together, that's just a big fist fight. That's nonsense. And then he was saying he's going to open it up to teenagers. Some of those teenagers will just be adults, really. I know the law says adulthood starts at 18. Really, naturally, it's better to look at like 16. Obviously, there are different gradations of adulthood. And really, like a 14-year-old is thinking at least close enough to an adult that you need to respect them intellectually differently than you would a child. Not that you should disrespect a child intellectually, but children, they're not unintelligent. They're just resting. A 14-year-old's mind is not necessarily resting. It's just, the rest of the body hasn't totally woken up. But all I'm saying is this: if you just put those people together, that's just world star. So that's not good. That's actually not black even. I know in Africa now, and people always look at Africa like, oh, I saw it in Africa, therefore it's black. You have all these all-male nonsense societies and all that. I mean, that's just some stuff that's come up later. I mean, that kind of, sword fighting group nonsense is not black. But anyway, but yeah, like there's that, and then also school inherently is just not a good idea. I'm gonna say it again, it's not black, but also doesn't make sense. Kind of the same statement. You shouldn't force people to take in information like that. It doesn't make sense. You should just give people the option to learn, and then you can give them certification, things of that nature. Especially children. Children should primarily be doing things that build up their physical as well as mental health. You can't just sit them in the chair and throw books at them and say dumb stuff anyway. But yeah, let me unplug my phone here. I'm just watching the clock. But yeah, people just gotta resolve that school issue in conversation because that's just a waste of time. I go through YouTube, I'm seeing a billion videos about school this, school that. Umar giving the interview, school this, school that. At the end of the day, nobody found nothing. Anyway, and then point 4, all this nonsense has made me question his goals. I wrote, it makes goals seem questionable. Really, what is the goal of a man who goes around saying, interracial dating is bad, then one of the biggest interviews of his career, he gets up there and says, I took a white woman to the Million Man March. Is this guy a comedian? What's going on? Anyway, let's go into the extra stuff. Really, this is the first rehearsal I've done. I want to get food. Do I want to? No, I'll still do the second run through. I just won't say too much. Anyway, bonus piece of information. Sing if you want to. That's good. Hand of God. I'm also going to start giving out hands of God within all my other stuff. I'm just going to define Pan-Africanism. I mean, at least that's what will happen in the video. Basically, Pan-Africanism is just a set of ideas and movements that say black people should unite, centered around the idea and or location of Africa somehow. That's what that is. And then the double question. Question 1, do you think FDNG will ever open? And question 2, how many biological children do you think Umar has? Anyway, that's the first run through. I'm sorry, I keep tilting this. I just want to make sure my time is on to get to this restaurant. Closes. Lord have mercy. pile nonsense in this world. Anyway. Ooh, I guess it's a good way to make the anger go where it need to be. Ooh. Also work out my muscles on my left side. Ooh. Surprising. Whew, get out of that negative energy. I think a lot of times people say they need to get rid of anger. Really, you need to get rid of negative energy, and then you have to have your anger go where it needs to go. People don't understand anger. Anger is there to help you reach your goal, but anger should be present with other things. I think the problem is when people are just angry. That means something's gone really wrong. Not necessarily with you, but something's gone really wrong. For example, you can be angry and happy at the same time. Shango's like that. Anyway. Let's just go again. So the title of this video is going to be, and once again, my name is Chimoge. You can call me Moge. Welcome here to my personal network. This is where I really begin my notes on ideas. This whole network is a factory. Check out OZ Bangwoko. This is the ring of it. Also check out Chimoge's comments. My personal network is technically a subset of Chimoge's comments. That's how it weaves together. I've explained this before. Check out my live streams. You can see that. But anyway, my other live streams. This is one. But the title of this video is going to be, I want to talk about Dr. Umar Johnson's personal and public failure that happened in 2025. I want to talk about Dr. Umar Johnson's personal and public failure that happened in 2025. I'll just summarize that failure in 5 points. First, Dr. Umar was exposed as a deadbeat dad. He was exposed as a deadbeat dad by his oldest daughter. And then, there was a messy family situation about that. She was in some trouble. Umar didn't help. It was deadbeat dad behavior. Point 2, Dr. Umar's school, the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, aka FDMG, was almost shut down. I believe it's still operational, but children do not attend the school. It's been like that for a while. Again, that's been a whole saga. There's been a lot of stupid, unfair criticism about that, but there's also been fair criticism. And for him to have had the organization open that long, and for him to have even attempted it, given how difficult it is, and to be in that position without a clear explanation as to why, is unacceptable. Point 3, Umar went personally bankrupt. At least he had a personal money problem that was linked to the FDMG thing. Again, this guy's over 50. He's been famous for over a decade, like 15 years, 16 years now. He has a PhD, I guess multiple PhDs, and he has an organization. Someone like that shouldn't be broke, and if they're broke, they should come out and say why they're an exception to that rule. What happened, who attacked you, Because another thing is this, if he was the victim of some sort of evil, he should come out and say that, because when you just eat whatever evil was done to you, you let the criminal get away. All right. There's no such thing as a criminal. Well, let me say it a different way. You can't let someone who hurt you go and think that that's not hurting other people. It is. So unlikely that person's going to go on to hurt other people. Not always, but likely. So you gotta say, hey, this happened to me. Let's get the person. Point 4. Umar had some romantic scandals with black women and gave out some vile and self-telling on insults. What does that mean? Some black women accused him of misconduct. There's one in particular, he insulted in a vile manner in a way that actually made him look bad, but he was saying it in a way that made it seem like he didn't know that. So it just made it look crazy, and then also just spread a lot of vile nonsense into the world. Anyway, there's that. Then point 5, white women hypocrisy, Joe Budden. What was that? Umar was a proponent of the idea that black men should not date white women. And again, that point is understandable given the nature of racism. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to say everything I said before. That's very basic. You can argue about stuff on the edges, so that point is very at least understandable. He's a bit of a proponent of it. Got on the Joe Budden podcast and said he took a white woman to the Burning Man March. He had a crush on her. She had a crush on him, whatever, in college. That's a crazy statement, especially because he's always been saying, I've never been with a white woman. What is that? You took a white woman on a date. The way he was talking about it sounds like he still do something like that. So that's a hypocrite. That's crazy to make that your calling card and then come out and say, I protested the Million Man March with the white woman. All right, people got to look into that. That's crazy. Anyway, so that's what happened. Here are my points on it. 1, it just shows overall how Umar is a criminal entity. Again, I'm talking about crimes against morality, crimes against nature. Perhaps he's also committed crimes against the government. But anyway, it just shows he's bad. Point two, it makes me question what's behind all the interviews, who's boosting him and why has no one ever raised these points? It can't be that hard to find his Million Man March nonsense. Anyway, point three, it makes me think that we gotta finally resolve the debates around this school. Just go in, look at what's true, what's not true, and then look at what are reasonable standards to hold people to who want to open a school, and then ask, should we even be opening schools? And more than that, should we be acting like school is a good thing? School is not a good thing. And I'm just going to go out on a limb and say this. School gives people an excuse not to parent. Teachers are just bootleg parents. You're a bootleg parent if you just send your kid to school. You should be the teacher. You should be the instructor. We need to create an actual system that integrates family and, more importantly, non-family interactions. There's a lot of bad parents in the world today that just sit their kids in the family and think that's going to create a proper person. You can't just sit in the family. That's like if you sit in bed all day. That's terrible. Anyway, point four. All this makes Umar's goals seem questionable. You know, why would you come out in front of the people, say I'm Mr. Pan-Africanism, don't date white women, then go, oh yeah, you know, my organization's messy, I'm a deadbeat dad, and then, you know, I took a white woman to Million Man March. Anyway, here's the bonus piece of information. Sing if you want to, sing if you want to. Now, here's the hand of God. I'm going to define Pan-Africanism, and I'm just going to say it like this. Pan-Africanism is a set of ideas and movements centered around uniting Black people and or African people, centered around the idea of Africa and or the location of Africa. So it's kind of vague, but you kind of get the kind of stuff that's going on there with that. Then the double question. First, do you think that the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy will ever open? Do you think that the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy will ever open? And question two, how many biological children do you think Umar has? How many biological children do you think Umar has? Thank you very much. Please like, share, and subscribe. Patronize my business. And you'll see this video come up soon. There'll be art in it. You can buy that art on Patreon. The art comes with an accompanying written up post. And then also you can download and look at it yourself. Keep it with you. Do whatever you want. Please also buy my merchandise. I have clothes. I also have work materials, and I'm adding more merchandise. And you also get merchandise if you subscribe on Patreon. That's the next thing. You can subscribe on Patreon. There's a lot of different tiers of benefits. I'm adding more tiers for the one for Moge, but everything I'm saying is for all networks. So there's subscription plans on all my networks. I have 6 networks here and 7 YouTube channels. You can also check out the Inquiry Topic channel. More music coming soon. And then you can donate. You can donate on PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. Thank you very much. All the links to this stuff is in my About section. See you very much. Or see you next time.